everybody. Welcome to Decide to Dominate. This is episode 9. I'm your co host, Mike Weatherly, and that's my good friend over there, DJ Doja. In studio today, I'm across the water in Williamsburg, holding the fort down over here. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Patrick Cavanaugh. This man needs no introduction, but he is actually a business partner of mine in the Norfolk Admirals. I got my Admirals hat on today, representing the brand. Uh, Former Admiral himself, played in the NHL, very successful businessman, and just a really good friend. Patrick, thank you. We're really excited to have you on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be here with two of my friends. So I'm excited to have a chat with you guys.
Yeah, so thanks for taking the time. I mean, might as well kick it off with some hockey talk. And actually,
Absolutely.
you're our first hockey guest on the show, so that's kind of exciting.
I hope
Great.
I'm the first of many.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, there's a big hockey show on this platform, No Filter Network, so we're working on getting them on the show here down the road. So tell us about the season. How's everything going so far?
Yeah, so we're really excited about how the season has started for the Norfolk Admirals. We had a lot of objectives set for this season. We wanted to, change our culture, continue to move the organization forward, to have better production on the ice, and to, set ourselves up for a playoff opportunity and a championship run this year in the ECHL. And, we're just short of the midway part of the season. We have the All-Star game coming up this upcoming weekend in Savannah, Georgia, which usually indicates the middle of the season. And, we're logging and fighting around that first and second place. We had a very tough stretch of the last 6 games. We lost the last 4 in a row, 3 at home, which was painful. So it knocked us in a tight division, I don't know, third, fourth, or something of that nature now. But, just like any sport, and certainly in this one, playoffs are usually going to be the difference between 3 or 4 points. There's 8 points separating first place and last place in the entire division. So you don't have room for getting too happy when you put 3 in a row, and you better start making some changes if you lose 3 in a row. So those are what the meetings have been about this week.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for me, it's funny because when I'm at the games and just watching online, it's like I'm thinking as a business owner, but in some cases, in more cases, almost more a fan of the team and, seeing the kind of challenges and even, trying to explain to people, like players getting caught up and down and just kind of like the shift in the league in general and just, and my mind's always thinking from a business perspective, but then obviously there's always the on ice product, and the on ice product is good. Usually people are going to come out to the game. So, talk about some of the challenges so far that you faced this season and kind of what we're doing as a team to get around those.
Yeah, it's funny, because you specified this season, and every season has its challenges, whether you're at the top or the bottom or, somewhere in the middle. And then through the course of the season, the challenges are constantly changing. And, for me and in my businesses and my concepts, always perseverance, commitment, excellence. I live by those 3 words. And, underneath perseverance, you have to have, accountability. You have to be able to pursue. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to decide. You have to be able to work with people day in and day out. And you have to be committed to doing that every day. And sometimes at different levels, multiple times for the day. And if you could do both of those things good, excellence usually comes. And so working with a good chunk of people, we have an awesome staff at Chill Ponds. We have a great affiliate this year with the Winnipeg Jets and Craig Heisinger, who runs that operation up there. We've got great players that come down, and just like a part of this league in the minors, we've had 6 or 7 of them called up, and that creates big gaps at our spot to maintain consistency and to maintain the expectation within the locker room. And every team's good. Every team deals with it. There is no excuses. But the challenges that we have dealt with most recently had a lot to do with call-ups. And you lose big parts of the team. You lose big parts of the culture. You disrupt the lines and the chemistry within the teams. And, on these 3 games, we lost 2 of them by a goal. And we only gave up 2 goals, 3 goals. And those should be wins. In our level, if you could score 4 goals, and that's the goal, you win 85% of your games. And you just can't win when you're scoring 1 and 2 goals a game. And that's what happened. And then the result dictated its pace and creates new pressures and new opportunities for us to move forward. And a lot of people don't look at the opportunities when you have a tough stretch. And this is our first of the year. But the opportunity is really to get everyone together and say, all right, we got punched in the mouth here. What are we made of? Everyone can talk, very favorably when you're on a 6-game win streak and you're first in the division. But what happens when it's the other way? And to me, that's always the best time to see what kind of people, what kind of team, and what kind of structure we have moving forward.
So something I've never thought about, and it just popped in my mind right now as you were talking, is Obviously the show we talk a lot about a lot of integration and overlap between business and sports. In the workplace, when you lose a good employee, whether they go or they leave on their own or they're taken by another organization, you're forced to go find someone to fill that void. When I think about professional sports, and I always talk about with the minor leagues, we're losing players because the parent team is taking folks. Well, the NHL can take from the AHL and the ECHL, and maybe the AHL can take from the ECHL. The ECHL doesn't have anybody to take from other than like other ECHL. Or so how do you? So I kind of see like the minor leagues is kind of like a business in that regard, a parallel there. You got to go find people. Like, how do you do that? In the minor
Well,
league?
there is two levels below us still yet. It's the SPHL and the Federal League, which are two lower structured organizations
But
below us.
do we have affiliations with those, or you have to just go kind of make calls and do those?
No, we have friendships and relationships with
Right.
certain teams, but you never know who you're going to lose. So you're looking for a certain player when you lose a player. Um, Obviously, you're looking for the best players, but the coach is looking for a specific player when we lose a player to best balance what we have and to compete moving forward. So it's not a great ocean of opportunity. You have to really be good, selective, and lucky when you do call up a player and hope they can fill. But you lose 3 or 4 players, that's a big difference on your team. And what we really strive for is the leadership culture within our team. When a new player walks into that room, whether it's a player that's coming down, supposed to be very talented, or a player that's coming up that has something to prove, our objective is to win that period, that shift, that battle, that goal, that game, or that weekend set, in some order that I just set. And those priorities are dished forward. Now, the coaches in nowadays time are much different. DJ will tell you the coaching philosophy, the demeanor in the rooms, the way that you can motivate and support are entirely different. And so getting through to these players and the coach's role is to lead and mentor them, but to count on a small group of leaders inside that locker room to really be pulling the rope with the players. When there's shortcomings, to address them right on the spot, to be able to make quick adjustments during the game or into the next game. And when there's great things happen too, proper ways to celebrate and to reward those players. But generally, peer-to-peer is a stronger incentive than the coach coming in, good or bad, in that. So that's where that connection between the coach and the leadership pack within that locker room come together. And that's where you really have a better chance of finding great success.
Yeah, go ahead, DJ. I know you got
That's
a couple
great.
questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's great. Great, Pat. Listen, what's always been interesting from my perspective is being in the locker room and trying to figure out which of the athletes and players are going to develop into executives within that sport. So we could always pinpoint sort of the player reps, sort of taking that spot in terms of guys that would be potential GMs down the road. I'm curious for you, when did you know that you wanted to be involved in the hockey business as a player?
So, that question is kind of loaded in life always. I always say, if you ever have a plan in life, let's talk about it next week, because things are always different.
Right.
My aspirations were always to make the NHL as a player, and I fell just short of that. And the path that was leading toward me at that time was to go into coaching. That's where my path was being offered, and some of the older members of the coaching and general manager figures when I was coming out of the player phase were indicating that I would probably be a fit there. But I had no motivation to coach pro players at all. I was much more motivated by the grassroots level and introducing the sport of hockey, especially in non-traditional areas like we are considered here in Hampton Roads, and sharing the love of the sport and the joys that come from the sport on so many different levels, at the local rinks. The sport of hockey just brings so much joy, and it's unique from other sports. God didn't put us on earth to skate. You got to learn to skate before you can even participate. So, there's that.
Put me on the earth to skate. I know that.
I had my little league baseball team at the game the other night. I was like, "We're going to be skating bases after the game," and they were like, "Oh."
That's right. But to kind of answer your question here, the opportunity to acquire the Admirals team came in 2017 for me. The team had been doing very poorly, and I had a vision for what the team was from when I played for it its very first year in 1989, almost all the way through. The ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, the championships, the challenges. And the organization had really had its stress leading up to that time frame. Movement, instability, different owners, different leagues, different things, poor records, poor performance, poor attendance. So there was a lot to fix. And maybe to pinpoint the answer to your question, there was a collection of a lot of my experiences that I thought would allow me the opportunity to improve this organization and bring it back to what this community deserves. And it started from what I learned as a pro player to my transition to business, and then even to my constant learning on day in and day out on how do I motivate our staff, how do I motivate our people, how do I make it seem like I seem. I don't think I work a day in my life. I enjoy what I do. I like coming in what I do. I like setting a big boy goal. I like achieving what somebody told me I couldn't get. If you can spread that kind of concept amongst a wider span of people, you're going to find success in no matter what you do. And there's a lot of small points that create that energy, and there's also some mistakes that can take away from it. So it's a careful management. I don't think there's a playbook as much as a lot of people will like to tell you there is. It's a combination of a lot of things, and you have to be aware that you're learning every day, DJ. I don't have it all figured out. I'm learning every day, but I've done that now for 30 years. So I do my best not to make the same mistake twice and adjust on the fly.
No, that's great. I know that the people in the community appreciate not just your business acumen, but certainly your passion for the team and for the sport, which, you had mentioned grassroots, starting with grassroots. So talk a little bit about what youth hockey means for you and for the organization.
So it means a ton. So when I was growing up, I was a pretty good athlete, and I liked all sports. And my dad in particular was pushing me towards basketball, being 6'4", and football in particular. The 1980 Olympics changed my life. I was 10 years old when that game took place. And when I saw that sport, saw that excitement, that's all I wanted to do. But the reality was I came from a non-traditional area, from a middle-class family, and hockey is a more expensive sport to play. And I was so late to the game, DJ. As you know, in any sport, to get great, you have a certain time to put tools in the toolbox. And once you expire that time frame, it's hard to go back and recapture those. But that's all I wanted to do. And eventually I found my way to do it. And, to make a long journey a lot shorter, I left my junior year of high school for Canada to play. And everyone said I couldn't make it. I couldn't do it. I was way behind, and I was. But I went up there to play. I learned a lot up there, and eventually found myself onto the Admirals when I was 18 years old in 1989. A very young player even for that. And I bypassed going to university, and I bypassed going to considerable junior hockey to get to this level. And I found my way to stick for 8 more seasons, and got signed by the Rangers and Tampa and St. Louis, and through their minor system as well. But the one thing I always look back on to answer your question, and I know I'm giving you a long-winded, but I think about this often. If my parents or if someone of my knowledge today would have gone back and grabbed me when I was, say, 4 years old and started me along the trajectory, I always say that I have the knowledge to create NHL players now. I know the skills that are needed. I know the amount of time that's needed. I know where you need to be seen and when you need to be seen. I know how much time we really need to have on training and the certain mindset pieces that we have. So when my kids came along, I said, I'm not going to move you to Toronto or to Massachusetts or this. We're not going to shift our family on. I said, we're going to do our best to make pro players right here, at Chill Ponds and Chesapeake. Everyone said, you can't do that. We didn't have a league, and we didn't have trajectory, and we didn't do this. And, everybody will give you every reason why you can't get to a goal. But the baseline facts were there for me. So I used both of my kids kind of as a measuring stick. Once they showed an appreciation for the sport, we went out, started training day in and day out. We took a lot of people with us. I brought a lot of my peers from pro sports in. We created a junior program that was the conduit between youth hockey and university play. And we trained and we trained and we trained, and they excelled. And that pocket of kids now, so my oldest is 27, my youngest is 24. My oldest ended up going through the higher tiers of junior all the way from our USPHL level that we created to the North American League, to eventually the USHL. He went to NCAA school and played, and came back and eventually played for the Admirals, was, always our goal. Brandon Osmondson was another one of those players for here. He's playing for the Admirals right now. So my draw to the grassroots was I just wish I had the opportunity for someone to grab me at a time where I could have absorbed the baseline skills and the mindset that I needed. Because quite frankly, I got there too late. And the difference between me making or staying in the NHL was this big or, this big, depending on what lens you look at it. Either way, it was short. So my draw to that was providing a pathway of real opportunity for kids close to us in particular, putting Hampton Roads on the map, which we have done successfully at the youth trajectory level. But the last one, and maybe the most important, the biggest gift of all when you look back is the connection and the relationships that we've established between the families that really become a combination of friend, extended family. That's a unique relationship, and it supersedes and feels so good when I see Mr. and Mrs. Osmondson, my good friends, and Gary Osmondson, the grandfather, sitting in Scope Arena watching their kid play when we've been together since they were 4, 5, and 6, talking about these exact things and trying to sit by the campfire in the summer and have a few beers and talk about what the challenges were or what it is and the development. It's all part of the journey. And there is nothing better than the journey than finding success through pure and collective commitment to that type of a 20-year-old goal. And that's what it was.
That's terrific. I mean, I think any one of us that invests our time, energy, money in youth, there's always a tremendous benefit, and certainly, obviously, the community appreciates that. And myself as an individual in that community, I really just want to say thank you for your investment in youth. Although, for me, for someone to put on, I did try roller skating when I was a kid. Yeah, and like I said, the only time the only thing that happened when I put on roller skates is people laughed because there was nothing on my feet that was going to work other than maybe cleats. But anything on the ice or anything rolling, man, I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, you're fast. It should have made you faster.
Yeah, I just couldn't control it.
I'm glad you brought up your son and the local talent. I mean, I was going to bring that up on the show. Just how rewarding that must be to, I mean, I'm obviously the father of two. Both my kids play sports. That just had to have been so rewarding, and not only to play, but to play on the home team. I mean, that's just such a special thing for the community and you especially.
It really was a realization of a goal that was long time set. So it was a lot of fun, and those players earned it. Like, there was no shortcuts. There's never shortcuts to that kind of achievement, as you both know. It was just a bit of mentorship and the no nonsense that this is the way we're going to attack this, and they subscribed. In some cases at certain ages, sometimes players aren't ready to subscribe. In today's world, we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm for the sport of hockey, but we're also seeing things that are that are new challenges that DJ and I and coming up through our craft didn't see. A lot of our coaches were old school. It was you made the team or you didn't. It was that you were good or you're bad, and the message in there was get better or get out pretty much all the time. We deal with entitlement situations that are much different nowadays. We deal with discussions that we never had before. We deal with concerns that we never even considered. Establishing and tagging, I think accountability is one of the more difficult things always, whether it be us or this generation of players. But it's very challenging sometimes for us as coaches to not see a response to the accountability tag. Because if we're trying to go from A to B, there has to be certain hurdles we have to jump together, and we have to achieve them in order to get to the next one. And sometimes I think that is a challenging segment that all of us coaches or managers are constantly reevaluating.
Yeah, I think, accountability, commitment, perseverance, you named some key ingredients there for success, which are, I know, highlights in DJ's book, Decide to Dominate, but maybe you can spend a couple minutes just talking about things that were, things that were transferable from on ice, kind of in the sports world, over to the business world, and that you utilize today, whether those are kind of, just kind of the tools in the tool belt, if you were, that you use on a daily basis.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that there's so many things. I mean, really, my personality is based upon coming up through pro sports and trying to make it. But I think produce more and talk less. I think is something that really carries through from my playing days, and sometimes it gets muddled in the corporate world, especially with younger people that don't have that background. To me, it's kind of clean. That's a clean thing. If I'm producing, I don't need to talk or tell you about if I'm producing. It's happening or it's not happening. And quite frankly, I'm my biggest critic. If it's not happening, I don't need anyone else to tell me it's good or bad. I know it was good or bad, and so I'm my hardest critic. And by doing that, I'm not a big meeting guy. In pro sports, meetings are usually short. Oftentimes meetings are not because things are going good too. Meetings in pro sports generally aren't, a great thing. But the nice thing about meetings in the pro sports is it's very direct and it's very straight. You know what it is. In the corporate world, I find, we have to have these meetings to coordinate bigger groups of people towards a collective goal. And in that collective goal, there's 100 smaller objectives that need to be crossed. And one of the things I found really successful, I was very frustrated for years about that transition, because as DJ will tell you, or anyone who's played pro sports, if you take 2 minuses, you're not going to play tomorrow, Pat. And if you don't play tomorrow, we're probably going to send you down. You can look at the score sheet and know what that coach is going to do the next time, one way or the other. It's more concrete. In the business world, it's not as concrete. And in that perseverance, commitment, excellence mantra that I use, you have to really be able to give time to ideas to develop, and you have to allow for mistakes, and you have to allow for adjustment and things of that nature. But having meetings for me is an idea, discussion, vetting, decision, and execution format. And I live by that, to keep meetings shorter and to keep the message on point. And the thing about that process, I want everyone to come to a meeting with new ideas. I want everyone to tell me what they're seeing from their lens. How do we solve a challenge? How do we reach a new goal? So I want you to bring the ideas and not be afraid to bring them. And then I want the group to be able to discuss them. And when you get to a pass, you can weed them out or bring the best ones forward. Then you vet them. And when you vet them, you really have a chance over multiple lenses to hear what everyone's saying about them and bring the best ideas forward. And then there's a decision time frame. You're going to say, okay, these are the best ideas. We're deciding collectively. This is doing it, and this is important because when you're running a company or you're running an objective, you'd like to think you have the best idea and you run it. But if 3/4 of your team don't believe on it, it's destined to fail before you get it off the bat. So this concept brings everyone together in some type of consensus. But when you make a decision, then you move to execution. And I always find this, and I battle it all the time. Whenever you do that with a bigger group, okay, we've gone through this process. We put the best ideas down. We've had a whiteboard. We've done this. We've done that. We've exercised and used resources for these meetings. But when you get to execution time frame, I find that oftentimes the mental aspect of that tries to revert back, to one of the other segments. And I have to say, no, we've gone through this. We're moving forward. This is what we've decided. We're in execution mode at this point in time. If it didn't work, all of us were wrong. We got to go back to the drawing board at some point later, but we haven't determined that. So those are some things, that I've moved from my playing days to the business format to help me try to stay on the same path of the idea to the goal part.
Okay, yeah, no, DJ, I heard decision and decide a lot in there. Decide to dominate. It's like he was teeing you up. I know you have some thoughts on that.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Well, so what's interesting, Pat, is as you're talking, I'm thinking about one of the chapters, and in specific, I think the simple chapter, especially if you're talking about execution, it's titled "Every Day is Game Day," right? And we know in sports, we all know that especially in baseball or in hockey, where there's multiple games, right? In football, you play once a week. It's a little different, but when you have to be ready every day or every other day, or every 3 days, it's tougher on the body and the mind. But I can see you in the office taking care of business on a daily. I mean, waking up, like you said, you don't work. Yeah, I mean, this is joy for you, right? So, can you expound on that a bit? I mean, is every day game day for you?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But when you say that a game day, my mind brings me back to, if I was looking at that or listening to that message from a fan standpoint, I would say, it's Sunday, and it's NFL day. What are you going to do? But quite frankly, that as you get older and as you translate from business, from sports to business under that same concept, it's game day on 52 things, that are occurring, and most of them have to find their way to success for the next step of them to occur, or for that big goal to eventually be hit. So in sports, it's much more finite. I find, you practice or you're preparing for that big game, that event. Everyone watches, everyone knows the outcome comes, and it's kind of over at that point until the next one. Whereas business, it's a little bit, more more ambiguous, for lack of better words, because sometimes you're winning and your staff doesn't even see you're winning. Sometimes we're not doing well, and they're looking at something different. So it is game day every day, and a lot of these small objectives that have to be hit are critical for big ball success, and that's maddening sometimes for an operator when you're juggling this, and some of your team is just focused on specific items. Maybe that gives you an answer to that question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm curious because you also, you obviously talked about execution, and again, as former athletes, we're I want to say we're put in an advantage because we're constantly put in situations where we have goals set, whether it's individual or team goals, and then we have to execute in order to go through the implementation to reach those goals. And so I'm wondering, in your hiring process, do you look for former athletes or someone that has a history in sports than not? How do you look at it from that perspective when you hire?
Well, I've gone all over the dartboard on that question, DJ. I do like working with athletes, because there's a level of nonsense that's cut out when you're dealing with an athlete, especially one that has accomplished, at a certain level. They've gone through things already that most people know, but don't really understand what it took to get to the levels that they got to. They're extraordinary people, obviously, in their right, and in a very difficult field. But like when I came on with the Admirals, you sit in this board of governors meeting. There's 28 people, and you're coming through these big doors, and all these owners, and you have a wide degree of very big experience and success in the business field, and most of those people, as you relate it in that field, will have a different opinion on, do you get experts in certain fields, and how important is a college education, and how important is certain degrees, and how important is experience in the field, and how important is preference market opportunities and best practices and things, and those things come into play. And so you find yourself getting oftentimes pulled to try to get an advantage in the hiring process to someone who has experience in a specific field. And then, of course, you potentially have a connection or a disconnect in regards to vision and how you go about achieving big ball success, or a big objective that's difficult to get there. And so I think that if you can get in, in the interview process, if you can get in front of somebody and really see eye to eye on conceptually a pathway forward, meaning we're going to do our best to hit this out of the park, and if we fail, then we're going to pull up our socks and go again. That's the best you can hope for. And that skill set does come in various different people outside of the pro sports concept. But as I said, there's a lot of discussion that doesn't have to be had when you're dealing with a person that has achieved in pro sports, because they've gone through these things.
Yeah, I know, DJ, you and I always talk about love to work with athletes, love to work with veterans, team oriented, mission driven, training. They understand execution, chain of command. We talk about it all the time. There's no coincidence that a lot of the businesses that we have and or interact with are veteran based and or sports based. on a lot of levels. So see a lot of like successful veteran entrepreneurs and athlete entrepreneurs that start businesses after their career. Obviously, you guys both being one of those on the call today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm curious, taking that concept and that mindset, go back into your history and your career. Like, what were some of the, moving away from business from a little bit here and moving back into sports? What were some of is there a team or a couple of teams that you thoroughly enjoy playing for? And of course, when you had a good year, those are usually there's usually a good team around you, right? But do you have a specific season or specific team that you played for back in your days that sticks out more
Pat,
than the
before
other?
you go, I'm interested on this answer because I had a similar kind of question with the championship run. So I'm really interested to see what the answer is here.
So we won the championship on the second year with the Admirals that I was there, and I was a healthy scratch when we won the championship. And to me, as happy as I was to be a part of that team, and happy as I was for the organization and the team, and then that was only our second year in existence, and we won the championship. So that was a big ball goal for that, and actually set the path for the Admirals for the next, till we talk today, 35 years. The expectation to win and so on and so forth. But being the healthy scratch in that game, which I deserve to be, given my age and experience versus the players that were playing, was difficult. Still to this day, when I think about it, it puts hair on my back, up my back of my neck to think about that. And so sometimes championships aren't always, the reason why a season's good. When I'm surrounded by people that have commitment and accountability and are able to execute, to me, that's fulfilling. And so some of the teams that we had that were middle of the road were some of my teammates, and I really rallied around that and found success with each other, were some of the seasons I found more rewarding for me personally. But they didn't end up in championships. It was a lot of the small battles that I remember, or the successes that we didn't think were going to come because of the discipline and the accountability that took place to get them, were maybe some of them more rewarding. I had a great year in Huntsville, Alabama one year, and the team was awful. And I got a call just the other day about that team. I think about it all the time. The team was terrible. There were 4 or 5 guys on the team that ended up being my long-term friends. And in pro sports, as you know, that doesn't happen. It's weird. You could spend every day with a guy for 3 years. If he gets traded, it's like, and before social media, he was really gone. Like that was it. That was it. But I had a good friend of mine named Scott Burfoot that was there. And when I go to Savannah this weekend, as I'd mentioned in the beginning of this cast, he's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. And he sent me a letter of, a portion of his speech that he's going to do, citing some of the same experiences that I feel 30 years after doing it, of playing with him, about how he felt playing with me. And so even years later, I said, gosh, what a great feeling that he felt that way. Because guys don't usually talk about their feelings or what it has. You just know if it works and you're successful or you don't. You don't say, boy, I felt really good about that. It doesn't work that way. But in this case, 35 years later, that was the exact impact that it had on me emotionally. When he showed me what he was writing, I said, wow, I felt good about it then. But 35 years later, I feel maybe even better about it than I ever did. And that's probably a much different answer than you had thought when you asked me that. But that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's terrific. I've got a couple of, most of my, 2-year pro relationship point, most of my best relationships in terms of athletics are certainly from Penn State, and not in the pros. But what's interesting also to that point is not with the NFL, but on the baseball side, I've got stronger friendships from the minor leagues. So I'm not sure how to answer. If someone asked me the question like, what's the difference? I really
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that, DJ. I was thinking the same thing when you started to talk, like just because I've known you for a while now, and I feel like a lot of people obviously you played pro with, but your core, good, strong relationships to this day are a lot of those like minor league folks that you played with and or collegiate, just from knowing kind of like your ecosystem. And a lot of Vikings too. A lot of those Vikings guys.
Yeah, a couple of Vikings. Yeah, the strength, well, I think part of it with the Mets was, we spent a lot of time together in the hotel room
The
before games.
road, in the
Right.
bus.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're on the road. Exactly. And the minors now, you guys know, I mean, it's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bus rides, especially when playing in Jackson, Mississippi, and taking a bus ride to Little Rock, Arkansas in the middle of the night,
It's a
10
lot of
hour trip.
carbs, a lot of shared beds, a lot of shared bathrooms. We get to know each other really well.
Shared bed beds too.
Well, we only got about 5 or 10 minutes left, Pat. I wanted to ask you a question. So obviously the Admirals is going great. We had the All-Star game last year. That was an amazing experience. I know for me and my family in general. Future aspirations, taking the team to the AHL, maybe getting to the NHL for you down the road. And not to mean to put you on the spot, but I had to ask, just curious, like, where's your head for the next 5, 10, 15, even 20 years?
I'd expect nothing less than that question from you, Michael. So is this going to be on social media when I ping this out tomorrow, or when we
No,
say
no, no,
this
no.
is thinking,
Not
holy
to put you on the
cow?
spot. Just curious, like, where's your head?
Um, so I do have a big ball goal, and to me, it's a legacy changer for Hampton Roads, and very successful people have not been able to achieve this goal as of yet. But I want to put and be a part of bringing an arena to Hampton Roads that would be a new home for the Norfolk Admirals and other entertainment options here as well. We've been playing in the Scope. I love the Scope. It's been there. It's been great. But it's 50 years old. You walk around our other arenas and our fans, I think, would really thrive with a more modern opportunity of a facility. And there's a lot of excitement for this, but it's a big number to cure it. There's a lot of people that have to be involved to do it. So trying to drive the message home that the Admirals can be a part of a new arena and supporting the costs that come with that is part of it. So when we're talking about small term goals or collective staff, we've been doing very, very well. Our staff is just amazing at the Admirals, and we keep improving the attendance. So the attendance is more than just saying, boy, we brought the attendance up and everything's great. The attendance has a lot to do as one of those hurdles in a longer term goal to be able to sit at a table and say, the Norfolk Admirals can participate in this arena because this is the following that we have. And this is the support that's been for the community. It's one thing to say that the team has been here under the same name in the same arena for 35 years. It's another one to say we're drawing X amount of fans and it's creating X amount of revenue for the city and the ancillary items that support these types of things that allow the funding to go through for them. So again, that's a new chapter for me. It's something I've never been involved in. It's something I would like to do, and I think that would be a joy that would keep giving to our community long past my time on this earth. And when you can create something like that, it really is something to strive for.
Yeah, I mean, I know, and DJ, you can comment on this too, but Sierra, we were at the game on Friday night, and on the way home, Sierra's like, it's a different energy this year. And obviously, this is our third year being part of the team, and putting all the wins and losses aside, it just feels like a new energy, and it just feels, there's something good about it. And I think back to, like, it's not just, and I have this conversation with my son after every game, whether we win or lose on the way home. It's like, oh, we lost today. And I'm like, it's not just about the wins and losses. It is, and we want to win, but it's about the whole overall feel. Did you have fun at the game? Did you enjoy the food? Your buddies were there. Did you have a good time? And even at pro sports, I mean, that's what it's about. It's about putting a good product on the field, but only one team can win a championship. There's 28, 29, 30, 32 teams in the league, depending on what sport you're talking about. Only one's going to win it at the end of the year. And so, when you talked about, having friends that you make. Obviously, I played collegiate ball. You guys play professionally, but it's like even going to the games for the fans. Having that family experience. I think. I don't know if we did this last year or not, but even with like the Journey song where people were holding up the flashlights this year, I think that's a new thing. I feel like some people would come to the game just for that, just for the little character to sing like the Queen song in between the periods a couple times. Like people come for just that kind of thing. And then there's also a hockey game going on. So I don't know. There's a lot to be said about building a lot around that fan engagement, and that's what a lot of like business owners we talk to, a lot of professional sports teams are really looking at for creating that overall fan experience, not just the game itself.
Thanks so much for saying that. It kind of makes me smile on the inside when I hear that, because game experience or life experience is really what we're offering and providing. The game of hockey is our reason for getting together. And Marco Myers and Casey Christensen are two in particular that are working a lot on that game day. There's a lot of people who are touching it too. Brandon Schlick and some of the others that we have. They're wonderful people and smart people. And one of the things we talk about when meetings like that, I always jot down my experience through the game, just like you mentioned the journey piece. Or I challenge them all the time. I said, just because we did it yesterday doesn't mean it's good tomorrow. If it's flat, if it doesn't feel right, just because it worked last year doesn't make it works now. Always be trying something. The worst that can happen is it falls flat. We just don't do it again. And they really subscribe to that concept. And if you may have noticed, we had there was this new one that we did this weekend that was a takeoff of the World Junior that the Sweden were chanting, singing the song. Marco made his own dance moves to it and stepped out in center ice to introduce people how to dance to this song. And it was a huge hit. It was funny. And for 20 seconds, everybody in the arena wanted to be a part of what he was doing. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, DJ, I didn't tell you, but I dropped the puck on Friday night. Did I tell you that?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I was in a meeting earlier in the day, and obviously I took my my travel baseball team. It was a good little experience for us. We had a couple of suites down the ice, and I got the text. I was in a meeting at lunch. It was, hey, we don't have anybody from the winery today. We need you to drop the puck tonight. I was like, okay, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you, I was so worried about tripping on my own feet on the ice, but we did okay. My son went out there with me. It was a fun experience.
I'm glad you didn't, because I would have clipped that and thrown it on social media.
That would have been all over social media.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, I know we only got a couple more minutes. Any kind of last thoughts or questions for Pat? This has been a great interview. We really appreciate your time.
Well, just to dovetail off the experience being there, I've had the opportunity of seeing how the Vikings back in my day, how they took the fan experience very serious, and then eventually in the minor leagues, how the I think it's Buffalo Bisons, the AAA team for the Pirates at the time, what they did from a marketing standpoint to enhance the experience for their fans. So what's happening with the Admirals is incredible. I really appreciate it, and my wife appreciates it
oh my
too.
Gosh,
because
she can't stop talking about it either. She wants that date night. She wants to go on the date nights to the Admirals game.
So Pat, I'm trying to figure out if that's a compliment or not. But she said, I think she sent out a message saying the best date ever, after Admirals game. So, but my wife enjoys it. Our family does. So again, just really appreciate what you're doing with the team, through the community. It's can't wait to see what happens next.
Listen, guys, I really appreciate both of you very much, and appreciate you having me on. And I respect both of you greatly for all that you have done and all that you continue to do. And you motivate me, just so you know, in your daily pursuit for excellence. And I want to thank you both for that.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for deciding to dominate, and thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it, Pat, and we will see you at the rink.
There you go. Yes, sir.
All
Have
right.
a great day.
Have a great day,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Cheers.